Today we are talking about practical or simple tools to remembering oneness in our everyday life. So that would be one simple tool. Meditation, as I'm going to talk to you about more in a minute, is definitely one of the tools that I found most helpful on my journey. And so I'm very passionate about sharing that. And then the gift of music and surrendering into the graces of all of our creative energy is also such a beautiful aspect of this journey. So if you're interested in that, that is available both at JoanneShenandoah.com, SheilaApplegate.com, and on Amazon and various stores around the country. So welcome today. Today, simple tools for living in oneness in your everyday life. It's interesting because there was a typo when I first posted this, and it said simply tools, and I debated about whether it was a typo or not, because everything is simple, and these are simply some of the tools that you can use. The most important thing is to be aware, to know yourself, to be present with yourself, and to explore your own journey. And I would say the very first aspect for your journey is to get in tune with yourself and your own body, your own awareness of when something feels good and correct for you, when something feels uncomfortable. And also then that to take it to the next level of understanding when discomfort is from growth and when discomfort is a warning signal that perhaps what you're putting your attention on is not the healthiest for you in the moment. So one of the ways that I am very passionate about bringing that awareness in, as I said, is the guided meditation. But I believe there's all kinds of different tools to do that. There's muscle testing that we can do to get in tune with ourselves. There's simply just sitting with ourselves and getting to know ourselves, being present in our own body and aware of the way we feel when we are feeling in alignment and centered and when we're feeling off. That emotion of butterflies in the stomach is one that is very confusing for people. And I'm starting here because I think the journey to remembering oneness starts exactly where you are. And so I want to get to the very basic, like, how do I know when what I'm listening to, even this show right now, how do I know if this feels correct for me? And sometimes when we're expanding our understanding, we do get butterflies in our stomach. We do get unsure of where we're going. And I've talked many times about the ego. Our primitive survival instinct is to stay out of the light, in a sense, to stay out of that tunnel of light that we viewed as the passageway to the world beyond this one, which we've seen in the past as death. So when we are expanding into this vibration, we are going to kick in some of that instinct. And that's why I'm saying vibrationally to do some work with your ego and getting yourself really grounded and centered into the earth. So there is, again, on my website, one of my favorite free meditations for you is in the blogs under ego. And really, but what it is, I can tell you right now, is just bringing in the vibration of the sun and the moon, or gold and silver, which represents the alpha and the omega, or heaven, in that vibration, and the oneness beyond that, and drawing that down through our body and out our tailbone into the center core of the earth, back up again from the core fire of the earth and back through our body. What this does is connects us to heaven and earth in the same moment. We have spent so many centuries separating these two, and they're not really separate. That's just our illusion, our intention, our thoughts of forgetting oneness, our thoughts of separation. And so what we want to do is take a journey that is going to remind us that this is present now. To live in oneness is not something that happens at death. It may happen at death, but we don't have to wait till that time. And it certainly doesn't exclude living a very passionate and fulfilled physical world life. And in fact, if we are truly living in oneness, then everything, every aspect of this physical world is within that space. We are truly living in oneness because that's all there is. And scientists are now proving that more and more people, even coming from that mind center, are saying, yes, there is one energy source that connects us all. We are all a part of the same energy source. When we break ourselves down into the basic molecules, it's all the same. So we have proven that with our mind. Now, in order to apply that into our daily life, we actually have to center into that on a vibrational level. And we can do this in like I said, through the guided meditations, if that works for you, through music. Music can help us to just move into the vibration rather than our mind and our thoughts. Sometimes it's simply going for a walk or doing what you are most passionate about. When you find that you're doing something that you're passionate about, do you find that you get lost in the moment? And that could be from knitting to writing to cooking or to mowing the lawn, gardening. Whatever it is that brings us centered into the moment is what we want to do in order to stay focused in that remembrance of oneness in our everyday life. And beyond that, what we're working at doing now, and I actually should stop myself from saying working at doing, because that is actually probably one of the largest misconceptions, that we actually have to work at getting in oneness. We are in oneness. That's all that is. We simply have to allow the remembrance to occur. So once we get in tune with our body and we notice which vibrations feel good when we're in alignment and when we're not in alignment with a vibration of remembering, and when we can fine tune and pay attention to our body to experience when it's a warning signal that we're off, or when it's simply butterflies that we're excited about the expansion and maybe a little bit nervous about expanding into this vibration. That's where I started with that. Those two different vibrations are very, very similar. And so the more time you really take exploring your emotions, getting yourself comfortable sitting in any emotion. And we've talked about this before. One of the things is then becoming both the observer and the participant at the same time. So if you have something that triggers you and you are very emotional about it, perhaps frightened or worried or angry or overjoyed, filled with love, any of the emotions, while you are experiencing that, you have the opportunity to choose to also become the observer. And so you can be present, fully present in that experience while holding on to an awareness that there is something more than this, and that you are learning from this, and that you are moving forward in your journey, and that you are more than this single moment of experience. So this comes from feeling that vibration of remembering that we're more, that we're all that is. The technique that I have found most helpful recently, and we reach a point, all of these techniques help us get there, because basically we are trying to surrender our day to this oneness, to the higher power, whatever name we use to describe the divine enchanted energy that moves through and is all of us. And we want to center into that and ground ourselves into earth while giving ourselves the freedom to explore those energies. We want to look around the world. We want to see, we want to find beauty in the world. We want to take a moment to pay attention to the little intricacies of creation, to the leaf on the tree, to the bark, to the caterpillar that's climbing the tree, to the butterfly that flies in front of us, to the pebble that's under our foot. We want to the sky, to the clouds, to the little child's face, to the lover's face, to our friend. We want to pay attention to the people in our lives. We want to remember that they are mirrors for us. Now, this is another level on this journey of remembering that, because when we start to bring everyone into our vibration by remembering that everyone is a mirror to us. So the behaviors that we may love in other people or we may dislike in other people, those behaviors are a reflection of us. And what we see in the other person is a reflection of what we see in ourselves. And so instead of separating ourselves out, see, the thing in this space now that we're looking at, and I'm in this moment talking about your friends, the intimate people around you, the people you come into contact with on a daily basis, even the person you bump into on the street once, but you actually have that physical connection to them. But there's more to this. But first, let's talk about that. We need to see these people that come into contact with us as a reflection of us. So if we get triggered by somebody's behavior, then our responsibility, if we truly want to live in oneness, and I'm saying this because think about this, if we're living in oneness, then nothing can be outside of ourselves. So if we see a behavior in somebody else that we dislike, because usually that's when we want to disengage, but it can happen to something we like and don't feel like we can attain. But if we see a behavior in somebody else that we dislike, we may have the tendency to want to disassociate from that, to make them a bad person, to push them outside of ourselves so that we can say, well, I would never do that. Well, I'm not like that. I'm better than that. I know better than that. Now, I'm not saying we're going to like all behaviors. We want to choose in our proximity, and we really want to be diligent about choosing who, where, what, why we spend our time, so that we are in control and we are filling our life with things that bring us positive reflections that help us gently move more into the remembrance of all that we are. But when we see a behavior in someone else, that is simply a mirror to our own behavior. So if we dislike or very much like a behavior in someone else, it's our responsibility to then look at that inside of ourselves and see what aspect of that we are reflecting in the world, why their mirror is showing this to us. Now, this interrelationship is a very important aspect of living in oneness, because we're not talking. I am not trying to teach anyone to sit in meditation, to seclude themselves from the world, and to simply be in this altered state for their entire life. Because I don't believe that that is living in full oneness. Now, it is an aspect, and it's certainly something that somebody could choose to do, and I have no disrespect for that, and certainly something that somebody would be gifting the world with just by being in that vibration is a gift to the world. But to truly live in that remembrance of oneness is to integrate it into our daily life, to go out among the people, to look for that in every relationship that we have, every interaction that we have. We are remembering that that is a reflection of us, that it is a help, a guide to us to move us more towards our remembrance of oneness. And when we're truly sitting in that state of oneness, we have that full awareness of that. We have this full acceptance of it, and actually behaviors then become fairly neutral. Once in a while, they'll trigger us, and when they trigger us, it's a beautiful opportunity, an exciting opportunity to go in and look at what it is showing within ourselves and where we have an avenue to grow. But we tend to then be able to see the beauty in everyone because we're seeing the beauty in ourselves, and so we start to see that reflected in other people. Now, as I was talking about this in our personal relationships, we really need to expand it to our worldview. We can only be responsible for our own worldview. I'm not asking to be responsible for someone else. But think about if you as an individual, if any one of us as an individual is going to place our attention onto having an enemy, a bad person, a bad country, a bad religion, making anyone evil in any way, we are projecting onto that person aspects of oneness that we do not desire to see within ourselves. And we cannot push anything away from ourselves. This is a really sometimes difficult thing to attain in the beginning. We have to look at the people in the world that may do and participate in behaviors that really stir us in a negative way. And we have to recall and remember that as humans, we all have the capacity to behave in that way. And the same aspect, we have to look at those that we view as very enlightened, we see as almost on a pedestal above us, being able to communicate with spirit, being able to live in grace, saints, so to say. And we have to remember that we have all of those attributes within ourselves, that they are both simply mirrors to who we are inside. And coming to terms with that and allowing ourselves to embrace all of those aspects of ourselves allows us to rest into that space of oneness in our daily life. Once we do this, once we've started to explore ourselves, we've become in tune with ourselves, we've actually taken passion and joy in this exploration of remembrance. We take passion and joy in the experience of embracing all emotions, remembering that they're a current moving us to this goal that we have of remembering oneness. Then we can choose where we put our attention, and we start to get that feeling. Abraham Hicks, they talk about the vortex, and I absolutely know why, because visually, when I do the work of the oneness, it looks like a vortex to me as we're moving from focusing our attention on the physical, expanding it out to the spiritual, to seeing the ascended aspects of ourselves, to seeing the God-Goddess aspects of ourselves, to seeing and feeling and remembering the Alpha and the Omega that we are, and then expanding that into that beautiful, vast, enchanted oneness of all that is. And so it expands outward, but it is not separate. In every moment, we are all of this. We are the individual cell of our body. We are the full physical vibration of our body. We are our personality. We are our emotional body, our spiritual body. We are the ascended master being reflected in the vibration of knowing and remembering that. We are the God or the Goddess, the vibration of complete wholeness, manifesting instantly, being fully aware and present and empowered by the vibrations of emotion. We are the Alpha and the Omega, experiencing no thoughts, only divine love, only pure, pure divine love that moves between us. We are beyond that, the expansive, enchanted oneness, which in that state, when we center ourselves and our attention into that state, we no longer have thoughts, we no longer have emotions. We have access to all wisdom, all knowing. We step outside of the limitations of time and space, and we simply are. And when we rest in that space, we can access all information, but we don't have thoughts, we don't have feelings. So then in order to incorporate that into our lives, we need to be able to move back down along that spectrum and still stay aware of those connections, that expansion that feels and looks like a vortex, and then bring our attention back into the physical world, knowing that we can place our attention on all of these different dimensions at once. We can place our attention on one or more of these dimensions, given any situation based on our will. That's a skill that I love to work with people on when they have explored all the different aspects and have really come to that clear and centered space and know what it feels like to be, say, in the vortex, and then they're ready to be fully living and present in that. And I go with them and I take them through those vibrations and help them really seal that in until they're able to just really move through that in every moment of their life and choose where they place the attention. Most people on the journey are somewhere in the spectrum leading up to that, and they're getting to know themselves. They're getting to be aware of when they feel like they're in alignment and when they feel like they're off. And again, in that state, it feels to me very much like what Abraham says about that vortex. And you're moving in and out of the vortex, in and out of remembering oneness. And it does look like a tornado. And if you can imagine a tornado, a vortex of energy, The centered point inside that vortex is very calm and very beautiful and very, very centered. The space outside of it, the further you move away from it, the calmer it is. But that line in between is very chaotic, especially if you're trying to push against it. If you allow yourself in that, if you feel that and just allow the current to move you, it will take you into the center. And so when you're working in this phase of having experienced the feeling of being centered, being in oneness, starting to learn what that feels like in yourself, starting to be aware of when you're out of that and when you're in it, when your consciousness is placed outside of it and when your consciousness is resting in it. When your consciousness is resting in it, you start to be able to manifest things. Things fall into place. You feel the grace. You feel the magic in the way your day is unfolding. And then as you move out, you're going to start to feel that turbulence. And the sooner you notice that, the sooner you can just allow yourself to move back in. That you can't try to get back into that center. Because if you try to get back into that center, you're going to actually start going against that current. And you're going to start plummeting your way out further and then move back in. The allowing, the just remembering, okay, becoming that observer. Yes, I'm in this situation. I have to take actions right now, but I know everything is going to be okay. I know that everything is divine. I'm allowing myself to center into this place. And the more you move back and forth between that energy, the more sick of that in-between state you're going to get, and the more you're going to center into that space where things are accessible, calm, able to create in the moment. And when you start to move outside of that awareness and you feel that turbulence, you'll very quickly start to remind yourself it's okay to center into that. And then I'm kind of not going in order, but that's part of the whole journey. It's cyclical. Once you really learn to be inside that vortex, that's when you realize you are the vortex. And that was what I was talking about, where you realize you're the oneness and you just simply move from the point of placing your attention onto this physical moment or to a spiritual moment or to the enchanted oneness. And then you get to face every situation with the power of choosing where your vibration is, where your attention is in that moment, so that you can make decisions on how you would like your day to unfold based on where your attention is in that moment. So just to kind of recap this for you and to try, and I'm really trying to give a whole spectrum. And it isn't because, not even because there's so many people listening who are in so many different levels of that process. Each one of us is going to move between all of those levels throughout our life. As we move through the various situations in life, we'll be triggered in different ways, and we'll have to remember some of our basic tools, and then other times we'll be ready to center into some of the grander tools, the more, grander, the more evolved, the more awakened tools of being in those consciousness and those skills that we've developed all along the way. But again, to just remember that meet yourself and have compassion for yourself where you are right now. Be present and aware in the moment. The more you're in the moment, the more you're in the center. It's impossible to be in the center of oneness, to be in that remembrance of oneness while projecting to the future or the past. When you are present in the moment, when you are doing things that bring you love and passion, when you're finding the ability to observe even the more difficult situations and emotion with the love and passion of remembering that it is all moving you toward the ultimate goal of that fulfilled vibration of remembering your oneness, then you begin to integrate that in to your daily life. When you remember that every person, every situation, every reflection that you come to in your day is a mirror to you to remind you of where you are in this process, and you have compassion for even the behaviors that you don't like. At the same time, making conscious choices for your own behavior and what you put into your day, what you infuse your day with, the thoughts that you infuse your day with, the information that you put into your day that enhances you in the direction that you choose to go, while at the same time having a neutral or compassionate view for anyone who's choosing to be in a different vibration, and knowing that every aspect of everyone is a part of us, and therefore finding love for them finds love for ourselves. And to then also surrender the day to the higher vibration, whatever that is, if you call it God, Creator, all that is, Enchanted One, to make intentional, get your mind on board, the mind on board, as well as the ego on board, as well as the emotional aspects of the heart on board. You want all three of these vibrations working with you. And so to place awareness and compassion and love and attention onto all of those vibrations as you move forward. And the most important thing, follow your passion. If you are in joy, you are in oneness. And so the more you follow the things that bring you joy and fulfillment, the more you're going to experience that vibration of oneness, and the more you're going to be able to incorporate that into every aspect of your life. There you go. Simple tools to live in oneness in each moment of your life. Have an amazing week, everyone. Try out the tools that fit for you in this moment, and always come back and listen again, because I really hit the full spectrum of that for you. And so at various times, you'll be able to draw on something that you may not have heard today.